Most people know Bruno Mars as a polished performer who fills stadiums and racks up Grammys. Far fewer know the kid who was already a working entertainer before he turned 10, the teenager who slept in unusual places around Honolulu, or the adult who has spent years fending off rumors about money and his relationship. Here's a closer look at how he got from Waikiki stages to global superstardom, and the parts of his story that are still murky. Bruno Mars, born Peter Jean Hernandez, grew up inside a family variety act in Waikiki. By age 4, he was already doing 2 shows a night, 5 nights a week. Dressed in a glittery jumpsuit and mimicking Elvis Presley stage moves, he earned the nickname Little Elvis. At 5, he performed in front of roughly 40,000 people at the Aloha Bowl halftime show. A year later, he turned up on the Arsenio Hall show, and at 6, he picked up a paid acting role in Honeymoon in Vegas, earning a few $100s for a day's work. A gig he later joked was his first Vegas residency. By the time he hit double digits, he'd already clocked close to 1,000 live shows. That early immersion in performing may explain why, years later, rehearsing for the Super Bowl halftime show reportedly felt to him like nothing more than recess. The stability didn't last. When Bruno was 12, his parents divorced, and the family act dissolved along with it. The steady income disappeared, and so did any sense of a fixed home. He, his father, and his brother reportedly bounced between a beat-up Cadillac, various rooftops, and, at one point, an abandoned bird sanctuary where peacocks screeched through the night. Without a proper bathroom, they'd sneak into hotel pools to bathe, and dinner was frequently a gas station rice ball. The family reportedly went without electricity for 5 months at a stretch, forcing him to practice guitar. Without an amplifier, kids at school teased him over second-hand clothes. But he kept working, earning money doing a Michael Jackson impersonation to fund demo recordings and bus fare. That grind, by most accounts, is what toughened him for what came next. By his late teens, record labels had taken notice of his demo tapes, but they wanted to market him as a Latin pop artist in the mold of Ricky Martin, singing largely in Spanish. He didn't write in Spanish and didn't want to be boxed into that identity, so he built a new one instead. Bruno was a nod to a wrestler he liked as a kid, Bruno Sammartino, and Mars reportedly came from a girl who once told him his confidence made him seem otherworldly. He landed in Los Angeles in 2003 at 18 years old, carrying roughly $600, 3 demo CDs, and a suitcase tag reading Bruno Mars. His first year was rough, for different living situations, including a cheap motel on Sunset Boulevard and a cramped apartment shared with several other guys. He talked his way into a DJ job despite never having touched equipment, and got fired within 2 nights, though the small paycheck kept his phone connected a little longer. There were stretches where his diet consisted almost entirely of budget tacos. In 2004, Motown signed him on a strikingly short 3-page contract. But the label still didn't know what to do with an artist who didn't fit the box they wanted him in, and 9 months later, they dropped him without ever releasing a song. It stung. But it also pushed him toward the people and process that would define his career. Around this time, he connected with fellow Motown cast-off Philip Lawrence, and together with producer Ari Levine, they formed a production team that became known as the Smeezingtons, working out of a small Hollywood studio, sometimes paying for use of the gear with fast food. They spent years studying hit songs before writing their own, reportedly analyzing over 1,000 tracks to understand what made them work. A demo passed along by Bruno's sister eventually reached an associate of Dr. Dre, and while it didn't produce an immediate deal, it opened doors. The team sold a song to the group RBD for $20,000 just to stay afloat, then landed a genuine breakthrough, writing the hook for Flo Rida's Right Round, a chart-topping hit. They followed that with B.O.B.'s Nothing on You by the time Bruno released his own debut single. Songs he'd helped write had already sold well over 10 million copies for other artists. His proper solo debut was a modest, largely overlooked EP released in 2010. Just months later came Doo-Wops and Hooligans, made on a comparatively small budget and driven by heavy touring rather than sampled beats. It became a multi-platinum success and stayed on the UK albums chart for years. The singles from that era were massive. Just the Way You Are topped the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the best-selling digital tracks of its era. Grenade hit #1 across more than a dozen countries, and repeated that feat multiple times within a few months, a rare accomplishment. By his mid-20s, he'd already picked up multiple Grammy nominations in his debut year and won Best Male Pop Vocal Performance, making him one of the youngest men to win that category in decades. Unorthodox Jukebox followed in 2012, expanding his sound into rock, reggae, and disco influences despite label hesitation. Tracks like Locked Out of Heaven and Treasure performed strongly, and the record won Best Pop Vocal Album at the Grammys. Then came Uptown Funk with Mark Ronson, a song that dominated the charts for months, becoming one of the defining hits of the decade, and reportedly influencing everything from airline drink orders to a CPR training segment that used its tempo. His 2016 album 24K Magic leaned into a compact, retro funk sound and swept the top Grammy categories: album, record, and song of the year, a rare achievement. The accompanying world tour ran through 2018, played to millions of fans across 6 continents, and ranked among the highest-grossing tours of all time. In 2021, Bruno teamed up with Anderson .Paak to form Silk Sonic, a retro soul duo that debuted with Leave the Door Open. Recorded in an intentionally old-school, all-analog style, the song and its parent album won major Grammy Awards, including Record and Song of the Year, and their short tour reportedly grossed close to $150 million from a small number of shows. More recently, his 2024 duet with Lady Gaga, Die With a Smile, broke streaming records on release and stayed on the charts for months, generating enormous publishing revenue during its peak weeks. He also collaborated with Blackpink's Rose on APD, a song that became one of the biggest K-pop crossover hits in history and led to a headline-making joint performance at SoFi Stadium. Alongside professional highs, 2 persistent rumors have followed Bruno Mars in recent years, and it's worth being clear about how solid the evidence for each actually is. The gambling debt claim. In March 2024, a cable news segment aired an unsourced claim that Bruno owed roughly $50 million to MGM Resorts and was working off the debt through a Las Vegas residency. No named source.